The tension that had been simmering behind closed doors in the WNBA has finally boiled over. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's leadership, once celebrated as progressive, is now being torn apart by the very players she was supposed to represent. Leaked reports, public backlash, and fractured negotiations have created a storm that threatens to swallow the entire league. The situation has become so dire that one of the most powerful figures in basketball, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, has been forced to step in. For months, whispers about internal discontent were brushed aside. Players quietly voiced frustration over poor officiating, lack of communication, and inconsistent management. But when the players' union triggered the opt-out clause of their collective bargaining agreement, setting an early expiration for October 2025, everything changed. The message was clear. The players no longer trusted Kathy Engelbert, and the league was running out of time. As negotiations unraveled, fans began to notice the cracks too. Empty seats at playoff games, declining TV ratings, and half-hearted media coverage painted a grim picture. By the time the WNBA finals rolled around, it felt like the basketball had become secondary to the chaos off the court. And just when everyone hoped Engelbert would steady the ship, she made things worse. During a Friday press conference, she dismissed concerns about a looming lockout as media noise. That single phrase sent shockwaves through the league. Players felt dismissed, fans felt unheard, and insiders described the moment as the final straw. Within hours, reports surfaced that star players were privately refusing to play under Engelbert's leadership next season unless major changes were made. Some even floated the possibility of a strike. That's when Adam Silver stepped in. As commissioner of the NBA, the league that owns and financially supports the WNBA, Silver had no choice but to intervene. He had been monitoring the growing unrest for months, hoping Engelbert would regain control. But when she failed to act and the headlines turned disastrous, he decided it was time for the NBA to take over damage control. His response came swiftly. On Monday morning, standing at NBC Sports headquarters, Adam Silver finally broke his silence. He didn't attack Engelbert directly, but his message was impossible to misread. Calling the situation growing pains, he described the WNBA's struggles as part of a necessary evolution, but his tone made it clear that leadership was under scrutiny. Silver praised the league's growth under Engelbert, but emphasized the urgent need to rebuild relationships with players. That subtle shift in language sent shockwaves through both leagues. Behind the scenes, Silver's office had already begun coordinating with the WNBA board to stabilize operations. Legal advisors, PR experts, and labor specialists were quietly brought in. The NBA wasn't just watching, it was taking control. Silver's goal was simple: protect the league from self-destruction before the players' rebellion turned into a full-scale lockout. The stakes couldn't be higher. Billions of dollars in sponsorships and media rights were on the line, not to mention the credibility of professional women's basketball. And at the center of this turmoil stood one name that defined both the league's rise and its unrest: Caitlin Clark. Clark's arrival had changed everything. She brought unprecedented ratings, sold-out arenas, and global attention to a league that had struggled for relevance. Yet instead of rallying around her, Engelbert's leadership seemed to view her popularity as a problem to manage rather than an opportunity to embrace. When Clark was left off the Olympic roster earlier this year, the backlash was swift and brutal. Fans turned on the league, accusing Engelbert of allowing bias and politics to overshadow talent. Her refusal to defend Clark publicly only deepened the divide. Adam Silver saw the danger immediately. Clark wasn't just another player, she was the future. Losing her trust could undo decades of progress. Silver reportedly urged the WNBA to handle her with the care reserved for generational superstars. Engelbert, however, continued to stumble. That miscalculation didn't just cost her credibility, it may have cost her job. As the crisis unfolded, insiders began leaking details of a growing power struggle. According to reports, Silver had quietly assembled a crisis advisory team to explore contingency plans, including the possibility of Engelbert's resignation. The group's existence was never publicly confirmed, but it was an open secret among executives that the NBA was preparing to take full control if necessary. Meanwhile, the players' union was standing firm. Their message was simple: no more empty promises. They demanded higher pay, better travel conditions, and genuine accountability. Their patience had run out, and for the first time in league history, They were willing to risk everything for change. Sponsors were getting nervous. Networks hesitated to finalize the WNBA's next major broadcast deal, worth over $2 billion, until leadership issues were resolved. Every misstep by Engelbert made the NBA's involvement more essential, and her position more untenable. The breaking point came in early October when Silver addressed the press again. Calm but firm, he spoke about partnership, unity, and the need for transparent leadership. Yet when asked if he had full confidence in Kathy Engelbert, he didn't say yes. Instead, he replied, "We're all working toward the same goal." To casual viewers, it sounded supportive. But to insiders, it was a diplomatic dagger. It meant she was no longer leading that goal. He was. From that moment, everything changed. The WNBA was no longer under Engelbert's control. Every decision now carried Adam Silver's fingerprints. He had become the de facto leader, the one person standing between the league and collapse. For the players, Silver's involvement brought a glimmer of hope. Finally, someone was listening. For Engelbert, it was the beginning of the end. Her silence since Silver's intervention has spoken louder than any press release. As Halloween approaches, the symbolic deadline for the collective bargaining agreement, the WNBA finds itself at a crossroads. Either it will enter a new era of stability under Adam Silver's guidance, or it will spiral into the lockout that could end it all. Adam Silver never planned to run the WNBA, but now, with its credibility hanging by a thread, he might have no choice. What began as quiet frustration has turned into a full-scale rescue mission. The league's future, its players, and its very identity now rest in the hands of the man who saved basketball once before. The only question that remains, can he do it again?